Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Welcome to another broadcast of the Now Generation Radio broadcast, coming to you live with issues of today and tomorrow with our youth of this generation, featuring our hostess, Evangelist Shakira Graham.
Woman, you don't deserve to be treated that way. Sister, you don't deserve to be treated that way. Mama, you don't deserve to be treated that way. Grandma, you still let him treat you that way? You don't deserve to be treated that way.
All he did was hurt you, abuse you, mistreated you. You don't deserve to be treated that way. No, you don't. You don't deserve to be treated that way. But I love him. I really want him back. You know I love him. I've got to have him back. I don't deserve.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Now Generation Youth Radio program. We're so glad that you took your time out of your busy schedule to tune in with us. We're just going to do something special on today in reference to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is the month that's designated for awareness of domestic violence victims. We're so glad to be back on the set with you. I am Shakira Graham, and I'll be your host on today. And we have some awesome guests in the studio with us. But before we let the guests give their shout-outs, we want you to get on the telephone, call your cousin, call your family members. Let everybody know that Now Generation is back on the air today. But again, we're just so glad that you are here tuning in with us. We have some awesome guests in the studio with us, and we're going to let the guests give their morning shout-outs to you today.
Hi everybody, my name is Julian. I go to Brand Baptist Academy, and I want to give a shout out to my mom, my dad, my friends and family, and everyone at my church. So I hope you guys enjoy us today.
Hey, my name is Marjani Thompson. I go to Reed Ross Classical School and just want to make a shout out to everybody.
Hey, all listeners, this is Monitris Turner, and I would like to give a shout out to my school, Village Christian Academy, and to everybody out there, and also my church, Cumberland Christian Center.
Hey everybody, this is Tangela Leggett. I'm from Hope County High School, and I would like to give a shout out to everybody at Hope County High, my family, my friends, and everybody else.
What's going on, listeners? This is Philip Canfield. I'm from Pinecrest High. Well, I go to Pinecrest High. 08, we in here. I want to give a shout out to my brother. Welcome home to my mother.
All right. And we have some very, we know that you're out there, you're tuning in, and we're just so glad that you're plugging in with us on today. Again, we want to say that October is designated for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're so glad that you are out there. And we just want to bring some hope to those who may find themselves in those situations, in those difficult situations. We want to bring some awareness and also just hopefully give you some inspiration that will be able to uplift you out of those negative situations. Just to touch base on a few things, just to break it down a little bit, domestic violence has many forms, and there's many different types of domestic violence, and we'll cover a couple of those areas on today. The main one is physical violence. Most people kind of know domestic violence in a physical form, but also we may tap into some sexual abuse, some emotional abuse, and basically just in some emotional and spiritual abuse on today. But there's many different forms and many different dimensions of the domestic violence, and so we just want to bring some awareness on today. And we're going to hear from our panel, and Monitris Turner is going to share some facts in reference to domestic violence.
Domestic violence occurs everywhere in the world, and then in the United States, women are 6 times as likely as men to experience intimate partner violence. Now, this here, not only women, most of the time you see that women are abused by their husbands, but also it could be their husbands, vice versa. And also, another way that women are affected during pregnancy, it could cause pre-birth, prematurity, and everything. And also, the relationship with the mother, it could be something different. It could be, well, that child has ADD or something. It could affect the child as well as a mother. And legal, as far as the child protection issues, and it overlaps with child abuse as well. If the mother is, beat up by her husband, then she's going to want to do that to her child as well. I mean, it doesn't always happen like that, but that's a cause.
So it can actually be a perpetual cycle of abuse that you're talking about, Mo. You did mention something about men. Also, men can be abused, so we don't want the listening audience out there to think that it's always women that's being abused. Right. Men, many times are affected by domestic violence also. The number goes unreported because men, society teaches that men are supposed to be strong, don't show emotion. And so just imagine a man that's being abused. He feels like he doesn't, that like you're a wimp or a punk or something. So a lot of the men that are abused, they feel like they don't have a way, to really express that as well. So men are abused, are victims of domestic violence as well. Those numbers go very unreported, because they really feel like, that they may be looked at as punks or, not being strong. And then sometimes people may not believe that they're actually in those situations. So that's good. And then we'll ask Tangela to share some stats on domestic violence.
Most women suffer a higher rate of violence, approximately 3.5 times higher than the national average. Many of them do not report assaults because of the tension that exists between law enforcement and women. This level of domestic violence may be a result of the loss of traditional status and roles for both men and women, as well as social and economic marginalization. Approximately 20% of female students report being physically or sexually abused by their dating partner. So to everyone, especially women that are being abused or experiencing domestic violence, get out now. Life is too short to end it before you're supposed to. Report it before it's too late. Know your partner. When you notice the first signs, end it. The longer you wait, the worse it gets, and the harder it is for you to get out. Take care of yourself and live happy and free.
And those of you who are tuning in, you're tuning into Now Generation Youth Radio Program, and you're hearing from the panel. October is set aside for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we just want to bring some hope, bring some inspiration, and just give some people some tips and things that will help pull them out of situations if they happen to find themselves in domestic violence situations. We'll hear from Philip Canfield. He's going to give some more insight and this information about domestic violence.
I haven't really dealt with domestic violence as far as, part of my everyday life, but I do have a female friend who has experienced it, not only with her father beating her mother, but with her boyfriend beating her for a period of time. And what she related to me as far as domestic violence goes is that it doesn't really start as a beating you up thing, or it doesn't start as a real combative, touchy-feely, confrontational type thing. It starts more like a verbal abuse, or it starts as, distance or problems in the relationship, and then it leads to that. And she told me as far as the relationship between her boyfriend and her, it was more of, it took a matter of like a year and a half, maybe 2 years before he actually started putting his hands on her. So it was like it came to a point as far as the relationship, the conversation, the verbal abuse, the, lack of communication. It all built up to the point where after a while it started turning into, physical altercations. So, and she also conveyed that it was like, it's for females who have been abused and know what abuse is like, is it feels trapping, and it feels like you're constricted and you can't go anywhere. But it's like Tangela said, it's best to report it to whoever, not just the police, but anybody, a friend, a mother, brother, whoever, and, get out of it as fast as you can. Even if it's going on for a long time, it's still not too late to report it, or, put yourself in a position where you can be helped rather than stick with it and end up losing your life or anything else.
And those of you tuning in, you're hearing from Philip Canfield and some of our other special guests in the studio. We're sharing some hope and this insight on domestic violence. And I just wanted to share, too, that domestic violence affects young and old. We're talking about teenage relationships and even adult relationships. There's so many different types of abuse. But the main thing I know, when I was a teenager, a lot of times when you're in relationships as far as like dating and things like that, some things that were actually abuse, we didn't realize that it was actually abuse. And a lot of times today, things that that is detrimental to us, we don't recognize, and that's part of the problem. A lot of times we don't really recognize the things that are formed to harm us. And here I just kind of jot down some tips of things that I remember, and I see now that when the people are in a relationship, sometimes people use profane language and threats because of jealousy. And sometimes as females, like back talking about myself, we thought it was cute for somebody to really threaten you if they saw you talking to someone else. And a lot of times females and even males, those threats in the form of jealousy, sometimes people kind of conceive that as, oh, well, yeah, he really loved me. And, the jealousy and stuff like that, we kind of ignorant to those things that is detrimental and is harmful, accepting abuse far as like in a verbal form. So those are things that I see that people actually accept, and they don't recognize that that's really detrimental. And then sometimes the threats of, and y'all can share your feedback on it, like if you're talking to somebody and people are really jealous, I better not see you talking to such and such. Sometimes the females really think that's cute, that they're really valued, but it's not. It is a form of verbal abuse, and, sometimes we just kind of accept things that we should cut off. And that's another thing I really see a lot of times in domestic violence situations. When people should cut things off, they just allow them to continue, and that creates a problem. Go ahead, Philip.
Actually, something that I've seen that can also bring on any type of abuse or whatever is like when I guess a younger female decides she wants to date an older male, or vice versa, an older male decides to date a younger female. It's really not abuse if it's an older male, but normally it's abuse when it's a younger female, older male, because it's I really don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's the pull between the ages and the pull between the mindset, where a younger female is on her level and an older male has experienced so much that he's on a different level. So it's like the minds don't meet, and half of the time it's a lot of miscommunication as far as when he speaks, she doesn't understand, and when she speaks, he doesn't understand. So it's like it's a lot of miscommunication, and that can really bring on, from what I've seen, it can bring on a lot of abuse as far as verbally, emotionally, physically, more physical than anything, but
Yeah, we just like even last night, it's a teenager. She called me, and basically, she was one who thought it was kind of cute that her boyfriend would kind of be jealous and stuff like that, and she would just think that it was love. And her boyfriend got really jealous, was actually hiding under the car, and she was talking to somebody, jumped out of the car. So sometimes, we kind of overlook stuff and allow stuff to go on, and it's really accepted. And the main thing that I found out, that most people that are in domestic violence situations, they're really sharp people. They're really sharp people, intelligent people, but they just allow themselves to get inside circumstances where they really can't, create boundaries for themselves to get out of harm's way. Marjani, did you want to share something in reference to domestic violence?
Well, with domestic violence, a lot of people say you're supposed to pray about it, and everything, because you want to stick with the relationship. But honestly, it's really not. You need to get out of it, because it's get to the point where it's be very harmful, and you're like, like your parents, like you're in a relationship with your boyfriend or vice versa, with your girlfriend, and your parents be like, oh, well, try to stick with the relationship, and you really like, what is wrong with you? So the best thing for you to do is honestly hurry up and get out of the relationship as soon as you can.
And Mo.
One thing that I wanted to kind of expound on what Marjani said is true. Only you know what's going on in between that relationship. You can't have somebody to come and tell you, okay, well, y'all are gonna be fine, and just pray about it. If you know something is completely wrong with that relationship, you just seriously need to get out of it. And I don't discourage praying. You need to pray also, so that God can, for God to be able to lead that person in the right path.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. And Marjani, you said something real important about and Monitris, about prayer. Prayer is crucial, and a lot of times God is looking for us to make some solid decisions, some sound decisions. And I just thought about a scripture. It's actually in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 34 through 35, and it talks about how jealousy operates. It says, "For jealousy is the rage of a man," and that word "man" is not just talking about a male; it's talking about gender. For jealousy is the rage of a man; therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though you give many gifts. And what that scripture is talking about is that when people are really, really jealous, they don't count up the cost. They don't think. They can't think clearly. And so then when they're really feeling that rage and vengeance, they just respond. So there really is no time when jealousy overtakes you. A lot of times you're so consumed in your thoughts and your evil thoughts that you just react. And that's what that scripture is saying. So it's basically no matter, and the latter part says that though you give many gifts, sometimes people really try to appease and please and really try to work it out. But when a person is jealous, you really can't, so it's like no matter what you do, no matter what you try to give, no matter how many times you apologize and make it up, that jealousy really consumes a person, and a lot of times they act out in rage, and it's too late. After that, they kind of, I didn't mean to do that, I don't know what happened, but that's how jealousy and rage actually operate. Go, Philip.
I wanted to kind of expound. Well, I mean, we've been talking about the female aspect, but I wanted to kind of jump on the male aspect because, like you said earlier, this is a thing where it goes both ways. But females, I guess, they get the bigger hand because it is a problem. But with males, it's also a problem, but it's just something that's not talked about. But I did do a little research, and from what I found, it was like males they're not beat per se, but they are put in positions and predicaments where it's like, they could lose their life or they could be hurt because of a jealous female, or because they are in a relationship where their partner can't deal with that guy their partner being attractive, or whatever the case may be. They can't deal with that. So therefore it's like they put limitations. Like you said, if you talk to her or look at her, I'm gonna get you hurt. And it's like, so it's there, but it's just not there because that's what society chooses not to view. And like you said, a male's got to be strong, and they got a certain standard to hold up. And so you can't look at a male and say, oh, he's getting beat by his wife. It's like that doesn't sound right, but it happens, and it's a thing where I know a guy that I go to school with, and he was telling me how his uncle has been put in numerous situations with his wife where she's actually paid people to watch him. So if he does look at a woman, or he works with a lady or whatever, and they think it's, something, and she'll be like, oh, come pay these people to come get you. So it's like he was put in predicaments where he couldn't feel safe even going to work because he felt like somebody's watching him 24/7. And I feel like with that, that's the same thing with the female. It should be reported, like you said, it should be prayed about, and it should be handled. I mean, really, abuse should be brought to the light full circle, not just, oh, it's just females. I mean, it should be brought full circle with everybody, children, older people, everybody should be brought full. I mean, because it happens to everybody, whether it's verbal, physical, or emotional, it happens. So I think as a whole, it should be brought full circle.
And that's good. And those of you who are tuning in, you're tuning into Now Generation, and we're just making some highlights in reference to October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And you were just hearing from Philip Canfield. And Philip, you made mention of the men, and I looked at some stats, and approximately 22% of men have experienced physical, sexual, psychological, intimate partner violence during their lives. Those numbers again go underreported because of the ego, and this is the perception that men should be strong, and so those numbers go really unreported. And that's really any type of abuse, no matter who you are, male or female. Just get out of those violent situations. Go ahead, Julianne. Want to share something?
I think most of the time domestic violence comes from, either the male or female feeling like they need that power, that they want to be in control of the household and not getting that power. So they use domestic violence. And sometimes it might come from like a bad childhood experience that they might have. And they bring, when they get married, they might have like a flashback or whatever of that childhood experience. And they use it against their husband, or the husband use it against the wife. And they don't have that power per se of feeling like they're in control. So that's their way of using domestic violence to feel like they're in control.
That's true. And definitely any type of abuse whatsoever, like I said, those of you who find yourselves in situations like that, there is help, and we'll give you some resources if you find yourself in situations like that, so you can actually get out and move into a life of peace. Anybody else on our panel want to share some things about domestic violence?
Okay, going back to what Philip said earlier about how it builds up over a year or whatever. Lenore Walker, she presented a model of a cycle of violence, which consists of 3 basic phases. The honeymoon phase, which is characterized by affection, apology, and apparent end of violence. Then the second stage is tension building phase. It's characterized by poor communication, tension, fear of causing outbursts. And the third phase, which is the acting out phase, is characterized by outbursts of violence and abusive incidents.
And definitely, like I said, any abuse. So we just here today just to bring some hope and some insight, and just know that you're not alone. A lot of times, fear grips people, and that's why people stay in the situation. Another thing that I notice is that self-esteem. A lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are sharp-minded people, but for one reason of another, most victims, they're very sharp individuals, but somewhere along the line, they have listened to lies and they haven't embraced the truth. And one of the scriptures I was thinking about where God says that we're wonderfully and marvelously made, and in Genesis how we're created in His image, and somewhere along the line, through storms of life and different situations and circumstances, we begin to believe things that are contrary to what God's word is concerning our lives. And so I just want to say to you today, if you find yourself in that situation, just know that God has not created you for abuse. God gets no glory out of any type of abuse. He wants His children to be blessed and prosperous in every area of their lives. And so we don't want you to settle for abuse and settle for mediocrity and settle for just that way of living. We want you to get out of that situation, and we'll give you some resources so that way you can find your way to a life of peace. Any of our panel, if you want to share any more thing else without listeners.
I just wanted to say that because this is October and this is Abuse Awareness Month, I think that, or really I want to pose a challenge to the listeners as far as make this something that not only we just talk about on the radio or we just hear about it from time to time. I mean, make this like something in society that is not accepted, for one, but for two, is something that's talked about and activated against, to the point where it's like it becomes none, it becomes void. I mean, the church, they don't really get into it. I don't understand why, but it should be something that should be taught. You know what I'm saying? It should be something that is talked about and talked against. I mean, because if you look at the way things are now, abuse is actually among suicide and drug addictions. Abuse is one of those things that's ranking pretty high. And it's like, that's something that we need to look at as society and as people, you know what I'm saying? Because like you said, nobody's built to be beat or be abused or be harmed in any way. It happens, but that's not what we're made for. So that's what I want to pose to the listeners, to make this something that everybody talks about, that it's a society thing where everybody can get out and activate against it and move against it. I mean, so we can bring those numbers down.
That's good. And those of you who are tuning in, you're tuning into Now Generation. You're hearing from Philip Canfield and some special guests on our panel. And just know that, like we said, God doesn't get any glory out of seeing His children abused. You are His creation. And just want to bring you some hope. Just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So that way the listeners can actually help identify if someone may be a victim of domestic violence, and also if you find yourself in a situation, how to identify it and actually come out of it, make some steps to coming out of that situation. One question is, does the person that you love, do they try to keep track of all of your time? Again, we kind of talked about that earlier, how a lot of times we think that's something real special. Blowing up your cell phone. You can't really leave to go to the store, blowing up your cell phone constantly. If you go into a family's house, and those are signs of abuse, but we didn't really know that. We thought that it was kind of cute that somebody just really cared about us. Oh, okay, well, he just really misses me, or she just really misses me, and she's sweating me. We say stuff like that, but really a person keeping track of all of your time is not healthy at all. Just kind of pay attention to those signs. Are you always accused, if you're in a relationship, are you always accused of being unfaithful? Are you always accused of being unfaithful? That's something to think about. Accusations and criticism all the time is lack of trust. And so that's something to look at. Are you discouraged from spending time with your family and also your friends? Again, that jealousy and that rage and that vengeance, comes in different forms. Just look at the warning signs. But, if you go into a family reunion or going over to visit family and friends and you're always tracked, again, that's kind of going back to your time again. That's not healthy, being in a relationship with anybody. And basically, are you preventing preventing from pursuing your goals. And me and Philip on the way down were talking about this. You want people in your life that's really going to push you and encourage you to fulfill goals and purpose. And young people, that's very important. Sometimes we have people in our life, but if somebody is really jealous and wants to be overly consumed with you, you won't have time to develop or grow, or really to, just really go after the different things that you have decided that you want to do. So just pay attention to those. Don't really accept that. That's like a warning sign. Criticize. Are you always criticized and humiliated? Based on how you dress or how you look or how you do your hair, nothing is ever good enough for this person that you're in relationship with. So that's something that people really struggle with, and that's like the verbal side of abuse. Always criticized, always humiliated, and even going down into the physical part. They're always angered very easily, have no tolerance. That's something that, is a red flag. And a lot of times I ask women, and even brothers too, talked to a brother the other day, but a lot of times those big red flags are kind of waving and we close our eyes to it. So pay attention to those signs. Don't ignore them. Are you hit? Are you slapped, punched? And so that's something that's physical abuse. No, that's not accepted. It's not acceptable at all for whatever the reason is. Well, I know I always make you mad. People start making excuses for the person's actions, and we see that a lot, and it's not acceptable. Are you threatened with weapons or guns? Back to the jealousy aspect of it and anger, it's not acceptable. And, there's so many more, but we just want you to pay attention to those signs and not accept it, because we said you are God's creation. We're just going to go throughout the panel, and we're just going to give you some last minute tips and inspiration to help those who are struggling with domestic violence and help you to make a decision to get out of harm's way. And we'll give you some resources, and we just want you to live a life of peace. In the book of Isaiah, it says that God wants us to be in perfect peace, and he wants our minds to be stayed on him, and God has ordained peace for our lives. So just know that God is there for you, and he's waiting for you to make a way of escape. And we talked about that, how he always provides a way out, and we'll give you some resources so you can make a decision to move out of those unhealthy, deadly situations, domestic violence. We'll just wrap up with the panel. We'll just go down the line and just give the listeners some hope out there, those who may find themselves in situations. Just give the listeners some hope.
I encourage those that is going through domestic violence, because it's really not something you really want to go through throughout your life, especially if those are teenagers. You know a lot of the adults going through it, but you don't know a lot of teenagers. But now there's like more teenagers going through it now than there is adults. And I just encourage those, there are many ways, just going to the police. They say that you go to your school counselor and everything like that, but sometimes the school counselor can't really do anything about it. But there are counseling out there that you can, go to other than just your school.
All right. I think, like Philip was saying earlier, is to act on it, do something. Like you see on the news, a lot of people getting abused and everything, and you hear people talking about, oh, that's horrible, but they just sit back and don't do anything because either they're scared or afraid of what the person might do to them. And I think, like Mo was saying earlier, you can pray or, talk to a parent or anything like that, but just try to walk away and, just kind of walk away and try to talk to other people who might have had experience and what they did to get out of it as well.
Okay.
This is for the listeners that are abused spiritually. You know what? If you're not able to pray or anything, I'll be the one to pray for you. Not only because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but I'll be praying for you throughout the whole year. And I'll be praying that you'll be able to get out of that relationship, or that you will be able to gain back your spirituality.
I feel that you, should report it or whatever. Don't let it get too far. Don't let it overtake you or whatever. And the first, like I said earlier, the first signs that you see, end it and take care of yourself. Not only yourself, everyone else. You don't have to report it to just the police officers. Report it to someone else also, so that they may be able to help you.
The biggest thing that while everybody's been talking, I've been collecting ideas and been thinking, and something that just dropped on me was that anybody listening that's been abused spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, you should get out there. And I'm not saying be crazy, but get out there and like really start a support group, start something that can open up a window for other people to step out and come out the closet and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm tired of being beat. I'm tired of being hurt. I'm tired of, because it's like she said, like, yeah, like Julianne said, it's, oh, okay. All right. Like Julianne said, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's something that people need to step out and, you know, be active on, because if we don't, this will just pile up. It's like, it's got to stop somewhere. So I feel like it should be something like people who are listening who have been abused, like I said, should get out there in the community, start support groups, get the church involved. You know what I'm saying? Be proactive, because this has got to stop, because if we don't stop it, then it'll go way where it doesn't need to go. So it's like, get out there and make it known. You know what I'm saying? Make it something that everybody knows about, make it something that's not tolerated, and make it something that the society can say this is not proper.
And if here's some telephone numbers, if you're in the Rayford area, we have Life After Life, 910-878-0118. That's 910-878-0118. And that's a domestic violence. That's a place that will be a safe haven, and it will get you plugged in and get you out of harm's way. And if you are in immediate danger, call 911. Call your local sheriff department, local police department. But the universal number is 911 if you're in a dangerous situation to get out. And we just want to thank you for tuning into Now Generation. We're so glad. We'll be praying for you. And we just God bless you, and just have an excellent day.
Been in tune to a Now Generation experience. Hopefully see you at the same station, same time, same place next week. Peace and love.